Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everybody. My name is MiAh the King, and I used to hate facial hair, but then it grew on me. Now then, I know it's been a while since I posted a video, but I'm fixing that right now, and I've got more this month coming as well. Today, we're taking a look at a game just released earlier today called The Awakener, Forgotten Oath. Developed by Tanner Games, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, and published by Gamera Games, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. This was released not in early access and selling for $17 American. I'm a little late to this one, but that's because it released at like 3 in the morning and I was sleeping. I'm a dad, you know, I can't just stay up till the sun rises anymore. But whatever, I'm here now and ready to get to work. So, as always, let's dive right into this sucker, shall we? So, basically, this is like Elden Ring or Dark Souls, but it's more roguelike and less adventure, I guess? What's the difference? Well, in Elden Ring or Dark Souls, when you die and get sent back a ways, but you get to keep most of your progress. Most of it remains, including skills and gear that you've grabbed along the way, as well as story and quest progression. Here, a roguelike game is where you die, you start all over again as if you never spent hours playing in the first place, like a new game. The only thing here is that you get to keep one specific resource out of several each time you die, which you can then use to permanently upgrade your character so that each run is easier and easier until you finally defeat the game. The story here is a bit confusing, with a lot of made-up words that I just didn't have the patience to commit to memory. Basically, you're some chosen warrior who needs to go out and cleanse evil after you and the evil were sealed into some kind of veil to keep the fighting and evil contained. Now, go out there and fight them all and destroy them all and save the world. Something along those lines. Yeah, in terms of story, it's kind of vague, generic, and not very interesting, but whatever. Let's dive into the good and the bad, as always, before my final thoughts, alright? Alright, cool. So up first for the positives is the graphics. I was actually impressed when I saw these graphics, and I thought to myself, wow, it actually looks pretty good. And I have it set on medium settings, too. But it's got great attention to detail, good contrast, great depth, very well done lighting, and magical fluorescence, and an overall cool and interesting look to it. So, no problems here. It's really nice to look at least in my opinion. Next up is the controls. Now, despite the fact that the game told me that this would be better played with a controller, I always refuse to do that. In my own opinion, if you design a game on a computer, then the PC controls should always be optimal, especially if you're going to sell it on PC as well. So I went in without a controller to test them, and despite being a little awkward at first, I eventually grew into them and found the game easy enough to manipulate, even with PC controls. Basically, it's not optimized, but it wasn't awkward or hard to play. So, despite it wanting me to use a controller, it still worked well enough with PC controls that I had to mention it in the pros section. The next positive point I want to bring up is the price tag. When you look at this game, you're not thinking under 20 bucks. You're thinking maybe 30 or more. However, this game is selling for a modest $17 on Steam, and considering what's here, that's impressive. Now, don't get me wrong, it's nowhere near worth more than $20. However, they knew that and gave us an appropriate price, which is a good thing, so I wanted to make mention of it. And last but not least, the stability. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's a fully released game, so obviously it should be stable. However, I think we all know that that is never really the case anymore. Cyberpunk and Starfield, anybody? But here, I personally only ran into one small glitch of frame rate dropping every once in a while, and it was barely noticeable. Other than that, I never ran into any bugs or glitches of any kind, and the game was mostly playing smooth as butter. That's a good thing, and that frame rate dropping issue could easily be fixed with a patch. So yeah, my consensus is that the game is pretty stable and deserves to be recognized for it. Especially when so many games out there are releasing not stable. Alright, so that's all the positives that I got to say about this game. Now we got to go on to the negatives, but before that, I just got to let you all know, the way my channel grows is kind of ridiculous. I only get more public and more noticed if I'm already noticed. In other words, my channel only gets more views if it already has more views. So liking and subscribing does help, but what really helps is sharing my content online, like on social media or whatever. So if you do enjoy my videos or find them informative, please help my channel grow by joining my kingdom and sharing my channel online. Thank you very much. Now then, on to the negatives. The very first negative that hit me like an annoying freight train was the sound design. First off, there's no voice acting at all, which, considering how this game looked, I was really expecting it. Even some bad voice acting would have been better than none. It was a little disheartening, but then you've got the music, which honestly wasn't bad, it's just very bland and forgettable, but the worst part was the sound effects. There are no variancies, barely any changes, and it almost always sounds the exact same, and even then, it's the exact same repetitive sound over and over again. That isn't even that good. I mean, are you listening to that? It's just awful. Next up for the negatives was the gameplay. I personally don't like Souls games or roguelike games, but I've played enough of them to know what's good and what's bad. For instance, Dark Souls and Elden Ring, good, great even. Like, those are amazing games. Even though I suck at them, I can tell that those are great games. But here, Well, the fighting is just kind of boring to me. Now, I was kind of getting into it after an hour, but at the same time, even then, I recognized that I was just doing the same combo move over and over again and winning just fine. Hell, I almost cleared the game. At least I think I did. I'm not sure how many levels are in this game, but I think the max is 20, and I got to like 15 before I died. Not to mention the timing for parrying and blocking is a little bit off, and sometimes your character moves in ways you don't want them to, despite you doing what you're supposed to be doing. The hit animation's looking bad and also feeling bad, and I could keep going. So it's also really easy, and when I mean really easy, I mean even the boss battles were boring and easy. Hell, my first boss battle was against the Lich King Arthas himself from Warcraft. But even he was super easy to defeat, as were most of the enemies. I ended up losing later to a lava golem, but that was just because I was messing around and bored trying to create my own fun. But still, it was way too easy. The next negative I have is the UI, the user interface, and the tutorial. Now, the tutorial barely taught me dick. I had to figure out most of what I needed to know on my own, with very little tooltip or information bubbles or anything at all, and I was just kind of guessing what was what half the time. The flow and the way the game wasn't even explained to me. Like, I didn't even understand I was supposed to be picking my level each time. Like, basically, the way it works is you spawn in this, like, temple area, which is, I guess, is like the main headquarters, and then you start going on your journey. And you basically, like, you go to a level, you go to like a magical door, and you get to pick one of 3 levels, and they'll give you like a challenge or what your goal is for that level, and then what the rewards or what the estimated rewards will be, and then you go there, you do what it says, and then you go to a magic door, and then you do it again, and that's just basically it over and over again. And as far as I know, there's only like, what, 2 biomes, maybe 3, because you've got the undead one in the beginning, and then you've got lava monsters and demons in the second one. There might be a third one as you get to that final level, maybe, I'm not sure. But the point is you go into these magical doors and you get to pick and choose, and some of the magical doors don't lead to an actual like level where you fight things, but they lead to like a shop or something. And I guess the main headquarters temple, which I couldn't find a way to get back to, is only there for when you die and respawn, which means the only way you can unlock a new character to play, which there are 3 types: a dual wielder, a spear wielder, and then the sword and shield guy you're using. But the only way to unlock them is when you die and have to start all over again, which I guess is okay, but I much rather would have been able to choose which type of style I use for the game. And if you're going to make it this short, then you got to make it harder. Sorry, my voice cracked a little bit there. Or you got to do something different, and they just didn't. Overall, the UI was just, it was more annoying and confusing than anything. I mean, trying to figure out what was what, or how to do this, or how to do that, it was just, none of it was ever explained, and it was very just confusing and awkward to use. And just overall, the UI just annoyed the crap out of me, and I always just kind of blazed right through it because I just didn't care. I didn't care. And last but not least is the creativity, writing, and the originality. This game lacks all of them. Now, when it actually does have some writing, it's not bad, but it's not amazing either. It's just average. The story is mundane and unoriginal, and overall the game is lacking in creativity or originality. As a Steam reviewer said, it's basically just a Dark Souls ripoff with not a whole lot of, sustenance there. Nothing super interesting or unique or compelling here, just an excuse to go fighting monsters over and over again, selling for $17. Boo. Alright, so that's all I got to say for the pros and the cons. My final thoughts? Well, honestly, I think it's a perfectly average game selling for a cheap price. Plus, it's a lot easier than Dark Souls or Elden Ring, so if those games are too hard for you but you like the idea of them and always wanted to give them a try, then this game might actually be a perfect fit for you. It's got its problems, but it's not a bad game. It's an average game. But it's got a cheap selling price that, even I can't not recommend it, because it's average with a cheap price. Basically, if you like the look of the game and what you're watching here, and if you're interested in playing something for a day or maybe a weekend, then sure, you might pick this up and check it out. But it's not going to be something amazing or next-gen or world-breaking, It's an average game that takes an idea that's already well established and gives you just another game to add to the list of games like that. It's not great, but it's not terrible. I do have one concern, though. I'm not sure exactly how many levels are in this game, but I think it's 20, and if it is 20, then this game will only last you a couple of hours. And if it only lasts you a couple of hours, then it's not worth more than $10. I think for every hour of gameplay, you should be spending $5. So if it's $10, 2 hours. So if the game is 2 hours long, it should only cost you $10. Now me, a person who's not good at Dark Souls or roguelike games, I was able to get to almost level 20 on my first attempt. Well, second, technically, as I died while I was learning the game, but within 2 hours, I got to level 15. If 20 is the max, then this game is an incredibly short game. So also keep that in mind if you choose to give this game a look-see. Alright, everybody? Do I recommend it? Well, if you're bored and want a new Dark Souls roguelike game that's cheap, then sure. You know, it's not awful. But if you're looking for something more, something bigger, then I definitely recommend you look elsewhere. All in all, it's going to come down to a personal choice, and I'm just here hoping to help you understand what you're getting into before you make that purchase. Alright, everybody? Alright, so that's all the time I got for this video. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions or concerns, please let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you found my video informative, and I can't wait to see you all again on my next adventure. So until then, I bid you all farewell.